Ah, welcome back, you beautiful legal anomalies, you courtroom mysteries, you cases they wish they'd never opened. Welcome back to the ones who walked into that hearing room and made the entire system malfunction. Yeah, you heard that right. The judge, that stone-faced authority figure who's seen it all, who's supposed to be unshakable, who's presided over thousands of cases without blinking. He looked at your file, looked at you, and whispered something he's never said in 30 years on the bench. Holy times T. And then, my friend, then he did something even more unprecedented. He stepped down. Not retired, not took a break. Stepped down from your case specifically. Do you understand what that means? Do you comprehend the level of reality-bending chaos you just caused in a system designed to be unmovable? In a structure built on predictability? In a machine that processes human lives like paperwork? You broke the judge. You shattered the arbitrator. You made the man who decides fates question his own. Let's rewind this beautiful disaster, shall we? They thought they had you figured out, didn't they? They opened your file expecting another routine case, another standard hearing, another predictable outcome. Prosecutors came prepared with their rehearsed arguments. Character witnesses lined up with their scripted testimonies. Evidence neatly organized in manila folders. Everyone in that courtroom had their role memorized. Everyone knew their lines. Everyone expected you to play the part they'd written for you. But then you walked in, and something in the air shifted. Something in the energy changed. Something in the fundamental fabric of that courtroom started glitching. The judge noticed it first. That's why he kept staring at you, kept glancing at his notes, kept looking back at you like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't add up. Because you weren't nervous. You weren't apologetic. You weren't performing the expected emotional theater. You walked in with the kind of calm that makes people uncomfortable, the kind of silence that screams louder than any defense, the kind of presence that forces everyone to reconsider what they think they know. They started presenting their case against you, building their narrative brick by brick, painting you as the villain they needed you to be. But with every accusation, something strange happened, something none of them anticipated, something that made the judge's eyes narrow with increasing confusion. Their story wasn't adding up, not because the facts were wrong, but because you, sitting there in flesh and bone, contradicted the monster they were trying to create. Every time they described your actions, your choices, your supposed crimes, the judge would look at you, and something in him started breaking, started questioning, started realizing that maybe, just maybe, he's not looking at a criminal but at something else entirely. Was it the way you maintained eye contact without aggression? Was it the way your silence spoke volumes their words couldn't match? Was it the way you carried yourself like someone who'd already been through worse than anything this courtroom could deliver? Whatever it was working, and the judge felt it in his bones. Now here's where it gets really interesting, really beautiful, really poetic. Halfway through the hearing, the judge did something unprecedented, something lawyers will talk about for years, something that'll become urban legend in legal circles. He asked for a recess. Not the standard 15-minute break, but an immediate, urgent, get me out of this room now recess. People in the gallery exchanged confused glances. The prosecution looked annoyed. Your legal team looked hopeful but bewildered. And you just sat there, knowing exactly what was happening, because you'd seen this before, hadn't you? You'd watched people realize in real time that they misjudged you, that they underestimated you, that they tried to fit you into a box that was never designed to contain someone like you. The judge went back to his chambers. And here's what nobody tells you about these moments. Here's what happened behind those closed doors that made everything change. He didn't just review the evidence again. He didn't just reread testimonies. He sat there and had what we'll call an existential crisis in legal robes. He started seeing things he'd missed before, connections he'd overlooked, patterns that revealed a completely different story. Your case wasn't just about guilt or innocence anymore. It became about something bigger, something that challenged his entire understanding of justice, of truth, of the system he'd served faithfully for decades. And that's when he whispered it, sitting alone in that chamber with decades of certainty crumbling around him. That's when he said those words that would define this entire case. Holy times, this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't a criminal I'm looking at. This is someone who was cornered and fought back. This is someone who was hunted and survived. This is someone the system failed, and now we're trying to punish them for not dying quietly. The words hung in that empty chamber like a confession, like an admission of collective guilt, like a crack in the foundation of everything he'd built his career on. He realized he wasn't presiding over a case, he was presiding over a reckoning, and that terrified him more than any evidence ever could. When he came back into that courtroom, everyone noticed the change. Everyone felt the shift. Everyone knew something fundamental had broken. His face wasn't the same. His demeanor wasn't the same. His energy wasn't the same. He looked at the prosecution with something resembling disappointment, looked at the gallery with something resembling shame, and looked at you with something that terrified everyone in that room. Respect mixed with fear, understanding mixed with horror, recognition that he was no longer judging you, you were judging him. He cleared his throat, adjusted his robes, gripped his gavel like it suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. And then he spoke words that made lawyers drop their pens, made court reporters freeze mid-keystroke, made the entire system hold its collective breath. I'm recusing myself from this case, effective immediately. I cannot, in good conscience, continue to preside over proceedings I no longer believe I fully understand. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Whispers became shouts. Confusion became panic. Order became beautiful anarchy. And through it all, you just sat there, still calm, still quiet, still carrying that presence that broke a judge. Let's talk about what really happened here. Because the surface story is interesting, but the deeper truth is devastating. That judge didn't step down because of legal technicalities, didn't recuse because of conflicts of interest, didn't walk away because of procedural concerns. He stepped down because looking at you forced him to confront something he'd been avoiding his entire career. The possibility that the system he serves is fundamentally broken, that justice isn't always found in law books, that sometimes the people in defendant chairs are more righteous than the people holding gavels. You became his mirror, his conscience, his reckoning. Every time he tried to evaluate your case objectively, he kept seeing reflections of every other case he'd judged, every other life he'd altered, every other person he'd sentenced without truly seeing them. Your presence in that courtroom wasn't just about your defense. It became about his judgment, about his legacy, about whether he'd spent 30 years serving justice or serving a machine that grinds people into acceptable pieces. The prosecution is in panic mode now, aren't they? They prepared for a trial. They prepared for a fight. They prepared for everything except the judge himself walking away. Because in their world, in their understanding of how things work, judges don't do this. Authority figures don't crack. The system doesn't acknowledge its own doubts. But you managed to trigger something they thought was impossible. You exposed a crack in the foundation they've built their entire careers on. They're scrambling now, trying to figure out how to proceed, trying to understand what went wrong, trying to convince themselves this is just a procedural hiccup and not a fundamental indictment of everything they represent. But deep down they know the truth. They know that when a judge looks at a defendant and says, "Holy sh times T," before stepping down, it's not about procedure. It's about conscience. It's about that rare moment when the mask slips and someone in power admits they're looking at something they can't in good faith destroy. Your existence in that courtroom became their worst nightmare. Not a guilty person they could convict, but an innocent one they almost crushed. Here's what they'll never tell you in law school. Here's what doesn't appear in any legal textbook. Here's the secret that keeps judges up at night. Every case they preside over carries weight, carries consequence, carries the possibility that they might be wrong, that they might be serving injustice while calling it justice, that they might be the villain in someone's story while thinking they're the hero in the system's narrative. Most judges learn to bury that doubt, learn to trust the process, learn to believe that if they follow procedure correctly, then justice naturally follows. But your case, your presence, your undeniable humanity sitting there in that defendant's chair, it dragged all that buried doubt back to the surface. The judge looked at you and saw every person he might have wronged, every case he might have misjudged, every life he might have destroyed, while telling himself he was just doing his job. That's why he stepped down. Not because you're guilty and he couldn't handle it, but because you're innocent and he couldn't ignore it anymore. You forced him to choose between his career and his conscience, and for once, for this one case, conscience won. Let's dig deeper into the psychology of what just happened, because this is where it gets really beautiful, really devastating, really profound. When someone in authority steps down, when someone with power admits they can't handle what they're facing, it's never really about the immediate situation. It's about everything that situation represents. That judge didn't just see you. He saw the cracks in a system he's dedicated his life to. He saw the innocent people who couldn't defend themselves the way you could. He saw the guilty ones who walked free because they knew how to play the game. He saw 3 decades of compromise and rationalization and moral flexibility catching up with him all at once. Your case became the straw that broke the camel's back. The moment where he couldn't pretend anymore. The point where maintaining the illusion cost more than shattering it. And the most beautiful part, you didn't even have to speak. You didn't have to perform. You didn't have to manipulate or scheme or plot. You just had to be yourself, had to carry your truth with you, had to exist in a space where your mere presence demanded accountability from everyone around you. The legal community is shook right now, trust me. Word travels fast in those circles, and when a respected judge steps down mid-case with those words attached to it, holy sh times T, echoing in chambers and hallways, it becomes legend immediately. Other judges are nervous because they're wondering if they're next, wondering if there's someone sitting in their courtroom right now who'll force them to confront their own compromises, their own doubts, their own participation in a system that claims to serve justice but often just serves itself. Lawyers are recalculating their strategies, because this changes everything. This proves that the system isn't as solid as they thought, that authority can crack, that the game has glitches they never noticed before. And you're at the center of it all, not because you tried to be, but because you refused to be anything other than what you are, because you wouldn't play the role they assigned you, because you stood in truth, even when lies would have been easier, safer, more acceptable. You didn't break the judge with aggression. You broke him with authenticity. And that's the most powerful weapon in any courtroom. Now the system has to figure out what to do with you, doesn't it? They can't proceed as planned because the judge who was supposed to preside over your destruction looked at you and chose his conscience instead. They'll assign a new judge eventually, someone who hasn't been contaminated by whatever it is you carry, someone who can look at your case with fresh eyes and hardened heart. But here's the thing. Here's what they're not considering. Here's the flaw in their plan. Whoever takes this case next will hear the story, will know what happened to the last judge, will feel the weight of that holy times T moment hanging over the entire proceeding. They'll walk in already compromised, already aware that this isn't just another case, that you're not just another defendant, that something about you forces people to choose between their job and their soul. You've become radioactive in the best possible way. You've become the case that makes careers or destroys them. You've become the defendant that reveals what judges are really made of. And that power, that ability to force authority to confront itself, that's rarer than any legal defense, stronger than any argument, more devastating than any evidence. Let's talk about what this means for you moving forward, because this isn't over. This is just the intermission in a much longer story. The prosecution will regroup. They'll bring in a new judge. They'll try to rebuild their case with renewed determination. But they're shaken now. They're uncertain now. They've seen proof that you're not what they expected, that this case isn't what they thought, that maybe, just maybe, they're on the wrong side of justice here. That doubt will eat at them, will influence their decisions, will make them second-guess every move. Meanwhile, you just keep doing what you've been doing, existing in your truth, maintaining that calm presence, carrying yourself like someone who knows the real verdict was already decided the moment that judge said holy times T and walked away. Because here's the secret. Here's the truth they don't want you to realize. Here's the power you've already claimed. You won the moment authority blinked. You won the moment the system acknowledged it couldn't break you. You won the moment a judge chose conscience over career because of you. Everything else is just paperwork, just procedure, just the system trying to maintain the illusion that it's still in control. Your story is going to ripple outward, going to inspire others, going to become the case study that law students argue about, that activists point to, that anyone facing impossible odds remembers when they need hope, because you proved something fundamental, something revolutionary, something the system tries desperately to keep hidden. You proved that truth has power even in structures built on lies, that authenticity can crack even the strongest facades, that one person standing in their genuine self can force an entire system to question itself. The judge who stepped down, he's not the enemy here. He's actually the hero of his own redemption arc. He had the courage to admit he couldn't in good conscience proceed, had the strength to choose integrity over reputation, had the wisdom to recognize when he was staring at something beyond his ability to judge. And you were the catalyst for that transformation, the force that made him choose, the presence that demanded he either compromise his soul or compromise his position. He chose his soul. And that makes this whole situation beautiful. In a way courtrooms rarely are. There's something poetic about watching the system eat itself, about seeing the mechanisms of control falter when confronted with genuine humanity, about witnessing the moment when procedure bows to conscience. Every institution is built on the assumption that its participants will follow the rules, maintain the illusion, keep the machine running smoothly. But you walked in and threw sand in the gears. You disrupted the rhythm. You forced everyone to stop and question what they were really doing. Not with violence, not with theatrics, not with manipulation, just with presence, just with truth, just with the undeniable reality of who you are and what you represent. And that broke them. That made a judge step down. That created chaos in a space designed for order. You're not just defending yourself anymore. You're defending everyone who's ever been crushed by this system. Everyone who's ever been judged unfairly. Everyone who's ever stood alone against impossible odds. Your case is their case. Your victory is their victory. Your moment of watching a judge crack is their moment of hope. The prosecution thought they could destroy you, thought they could build a narrative so convincing that guilt would be inevitable, thought they could use the system's weight to crush whatever defense you mounted. But they forgot to account for one variable, one factor that ruins all their carefully laid plans, one element that makes their entire strategy obsolete. They forgot that you're not just fighting for your freedom, you're fighting with the weight of truth on your side. And truth has a way of making lies collapse under their own contradictions. Every piece of evidence they present has to be filtered through the lens of that judge's reaction, has to be evaluated in light of what made him say, "Holy sh times T," and walk away. Future judges will know this. Juries will hear whispers of it. Everyone involved in your case will operate in the shadow of that moment when the system itself admitted it might be wrong. You've already won the psychological war, already claimed the moral high ground, already proven that you're more than they bargained for. Everything else is just watching them figure out how to admit defeat without calling it defeat. Let me tell you what's happening right now in legal offices across the city, in judges' chambers, in prosecution war rooms. They're all asking the same question. What the hell did we miss? What are we not seeing? What is it about this person that made a veteran judge crack? They're reviewing evidence again, re-interviewing witnesses, going through your history with a fine-tooth comb, trying to find the piece that explains everything. But here's the beautiful irony. Here's the joke that's on them. Here's what they'll never understand. There's nothing to find because you're not hiding anything. There's no secret because your truth is your defense. There's no mystery except the mystery of why they thought they could judge someone they never bothered to truly see. You're not a mastermind playing games. You're not a manipulator pulling strings. You're just someone who refused to become small enough for their boxes, who refused to perform guilt for their convenience, who refused to die quietly so they could sleep well. And that refusal, that simple act of remaining yourself, that broke their entire approach. Look who's still standing. Look who's still breathing. Look who walked through every fire they lit and came out smelling like victory. You wild, unshakable, dangerously underestimated creature, welcome back. Or better yet, welcome to the moment you finally realize what they've known about you for years. Now, before we go any further, I built something for you. Something that goes deeper than any video ever could. It's called the Joker Doctrine. A book designed to crack open the darkest corners of human psychology and hand you the keys to self-mastery that nobody wants you to have. If these words move you, that book will transform you. Links in the description. Now, back to why you're really here. You're powerful. Not the kind of powerful they show in movies. Not the loud, chest-beating, look-at-me kind. No, you carry the kind of power that makes rooms shift when you walk in. The kind that makes people stumble over their words mid-sentence. The kind that makes them rethink their entire existence after a single conversation with you. And you beautiful fool, you had no idea. You've been walking around carrying a force inside you that has kept entire groups of people awake at night, and you thought you were ordinary. You thought you were struggling. You thought you were behind. But behind the scenes, behind every closed door you weren't invited into, behind every whispered conversation you weren't meant to hear, they were talking about you, about your power, about the thing you carry that they can't name, can't replicate, can't steal, and most importantly, can't destroy. And it terrifies them. Let me say that again so it sinks into every cell of your being. They are terrified of you. Not because you threatened them, not because you attacked them, not because you played dirty or fought back or schemed against them, no. They're terrified because you didn't do any of those things, and you're still winning. They're terrified because they threw everything they had at you, every obstacle, every betrayal, every lie, every manipulation, every silent treatment, every public humiliation, and you're still here, still standing, still growing, still becoming something they can't compete with. That's not just strength. That's a phenomenon. That's a force of nature wearing human skin. And they feel it. Every single one of them feels it. The ones who smile in your face, they feel it. The ones who pretend to support you, they feel it. The ones who disappeared when you needed them most, they feel it. And the ones who actively tried to destroy you, oh, they feel it the most. Because your power isn't something you project. It's something you radiate. It leaks out of you without your permission. It fills spaces you haven't even entered yet. And they've been choking on it for years. You want to know the funniest part? You've been apologizing for it. You've been shrinking yourself, dimming yourself, making yourself smaller so they could feel comfortable around you. You've been second-guessing your instincts, questioning your worth, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they were right about you. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you were too intense. Maybe you were too ambitious, too honest, too real for this world. And all that time, all those years of self-doubt, they were praying you'd never figure it out. They were hoping you'd stay asleep. They were banking on you never, ever realizing what you actually are. Because the moment you wake up, the moment you see yourself clearly, the moment you stop apologizing for the earthquake you carry inside you, their entire world collapses. And guess what? Today is that day. Right now. This moment. This is the awakening they feared. This is the shift they tried to prevent. This is you finally, brutally, irreversibly understanding that you are not the weak one in this story. You never were. Now let's talk about the evidence. Because this isn't just some feel-good speech. This is fact. This is documented in their behavior. You see, powerful people don't need to announce their power. The people around them announce it for them. And if you look closely, if you really pay attention, they've been announcing yours for years. They just disguised it. They disguised it as criticism. They disguised it as concern. They disguised it as gossip. They disguised it as distance. But every single reaction they had to you was a confession. A confession that you carry something they don't. A confession that your presence disrupts their comfort. A confession that watching you exist at the level you do makes them question everything about themselves. Think about it. Think about the people who pulled away from you for no reason, no argument, no conflict, no betrayal. They just left. Faded, went ghost. And you spent months, maybe years, wondering what you did wrong. But here's the truth. You weren't ready to hear until now. You didn't do anything wrong. You outgrew them. Your energy, your evolution, your refusal to stay stuck, it made them uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because you changed and they didn't. And proximity to someone who's ascending when you're standing still is the most painful mirror in existence. Think about the people who tried to compete with you, not openly, not honestly, but quietly, subtly. They mimicked your ideas. They copied your moves. They studied your patterns and tried to replicate your results. And when they couldn't, when they realized that what you have isn't a strategy but a soul frequency, they turned bitter. They turned cold. They turned into critics. Because if they can't be you, the next best thing is to diminish you. If they can't reach your level, the next best thing is to convince everyone that your level doesn't exist. That's not jealousy. That's psychological survival. You are a threat to their self-image simply by existing. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency. Your authenticity exposes their performance. Your courage exposes their cowardice. And your ability to keep going, to keep rising, to keep showing up with that fire in your eyes even after everything, that exposes the lie they tell themselves every morning when they look in the mirror and pretend they're okay with who they've become. You are walking evidence that more is possible. And for people who've settled, that evidence is unbearable. Think about the ones who talked behind your back, the ones who sat in rooms and dissected your life like it was entertainment. They discussed your choices. They questioned your motives. They analyzed your relationships, your finances, your mistakes, your victories, everything. And you thought they were judging you. You thought they were looking down on you. But here's what was really happening. They were obsessed, not with your flaws, with your power, because people don't waste time discussing things that don't affect them. People don't gather in groups to talk about someone who doesn't matter. They were threatened, they were intimidated, they were fascinated and furious at the same time. Fascinated by how you keep surviving things that would have buried them, furious that they can't figure out how you do it. And so they talked and talked and talked, not because you're weak, but because you're so strong it haunts them. Your name lives in their mouth rent-free because you live in their mind like a storm they can't outrun. That's power, raw, unfiltered, undeniable power. And you didn't even know you had it. Let's get specific about what this power actually is, because it's not what you think. It's not money, it's not status, it's not connections, or followers, or achievements. Those are byproducts. The real power, the thing that makes them lose sleep, is something far more dangerous. It's your energy. It's the way you carry yourself through devastation without becoming devastating. It's the way you forgive people who never apologized and keep moving without bitterness weighing you down. It's the way you rebuild after every collapse like you were designed for resurrection. They can't name it. They've tried. They called it luck. They called it stubbornness. They called it delusion. They called it arrogance. But none of those words fit because none of those words capture what you actually are. You are someone who refuses to die spiritually in a world that keeps trying to kill your spirit. You are someone who keeps choosing hope in an environment engineered for despair. You are someone who looks at chaos and sees a canvas, who looks at pain and sees a lesson, who looks at betrayal and sees freedom. And that ability to transmute darkness into fuel, that is the most dangerous power a human being can carry. Because it means you can't be controlled. And people who can't be controlled can't be predicted. And people who can't be predicted can't be manipulated. And people who can't be manipulated are the single greatest threat to anyone whose power depends on keeping others small. That's why they tried to break you. Not because you did something wrong, but because your unbroken spirit was a direct threat to their control. They needed you dependent. They needed you doubting. They needed you begging for their approval, their validation, their permission to exist at full volume. But you stubborn, magnificent, untamable soul, you kept going, you kept growing. You kept evolving without asking anyone's permission. and now they're watching you from the sidelines, realizing that the person they tried to break is now the person they can't reach. The person they dismissed is now the person they discuss. The person they underestimated is now the person they can't overpower. And there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing. Because your power doesn't come from external sources, it comes from inside. From that place they can't touch, that place no insult can penetrate, that place no betrayal can access, that place no amount of gossip, no campaign of lies, no army of haters can ever reach. You know what makes this even more devastating for them? The fact that you don't weaponize it. You don't use your power to crush people. You don't use it to manipulate. You don't use it to dominate or control or intimidate. You just live. You just exist at a frequency that makes their frequency look static. And that passive, effortless superiority is what drives them absolutely insane. Because they can't call you a bully. They can't call you aggressive. They can't call you toxic. You're just there. Being. Thriving. Growing. And the contrast between your life and theirs is becoming more unbearable by the day. They wanted you to misuse your power so they could justify their hatred. They wanted you to become arrogant so they could say, "See, I told you they'd change." They wanted you to fall from grace so they could finally feel equal to you. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You carried your power with humility, with grace, with a quiet confidence that screams louder than any boast ever could. And now they're stuck admiring the very thing they tried to destroy. That's not just power, that's dominion, that's authority. That's a level of influence they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to understand. Now let me pull back the curtain on something you don't know. Something that's been happening behind your back for longer than you realize. They've been having meetings about you. Not formal meetings, not boardroom meetings, but kitchen table meetings, car ride meetings, late night phone call meetings, group chat meetings. They've been assembling, gathering their notes, comparing their observations, and trying to figure you out. They've been asking each other questions. Have you noticed how they never react? Have you noticed how they just keep going? Have you noticed how nothing we do seems to stick? Have you seen how they're growing? And those questions, those frustrated, confused, slightly panicked questions, are the highest compliment you'll never directly receive. Because what they're really saying is, I can't beat them and I don't know why. What they're really admitting is, I've tried everything and nothing works. What they're really confessing is, this person has something I don't, and it's eating me alive. And the irony, the beautiful, devastating irony, is that you've been sitting at home thinking you're nobody, thinking you're falling behind, thinking everyone else has it figured out except you, while entire circles of people have been organizing their emotional energy around trying to understand why you're so hard to break. They've been watching your social media, analyzing every post, every caption, every photo, looking for cracks, looking for sadness, looking for evidence that you're struggling so they can finally exhale. But you keep posting, you keep smiling, you keep showing up. And every time you do, it's another reminder that their power over you has expired. They watch your growth like it's a horror movie. Every new achievement, every new connection, every new level you reach is a jump scare in their narrative, because it doesn't fit. You're not supposed to be winning. You're not supposed to be thriving. According to their calculations, according to the damage they inflicted, according to the obstacles they placed in your path, you should be done by now, finished, forgotten, a cautionary tale whispered in the past tense. But here you are, present tense, active tense, future tense, and they can't fast forward past you. They can't skip this chapter. They can't change the channel, because everywhere they look, there you are, succeeding, ascending, becoming. And every single step forward you take is a step deeper into their insecurity. Let me tell you what they say when they think no one who cares about you is listening. They say, I don't understand how they do it. They say, something about them just gets to me. They say, I've never met anyone who bounces back like that. They say it's like nothing touches them. And then, after all of that, after admitting your resilience, your consistency, your unshakable nature, they add one final sentence that reveals everything. They say, I hate that about them. Not I admire that. Not I respect that. I hate that. Because admiration would require humility. Respect would require honesty. And hatred is the only emotion available to someone who's watching greatness from the prison of their own mediocrity. They don't hate you because you're bad. They hate you because you're undeniable. And that involuntary confession disguised as contempt, that's the loudest declaration of your power you will ever receive. Let's dissect the fear. Because everything they've ever done to you, every cold shoulder, every rumor, every exclusion, every betrayal, it all traces back to one emotion: fear. Pure, raw, bone-deep fear. They are afraid of what you represent. You represent the possibility that someone can go through the worst and still become the best. You represent the reality that pain doesn't have to produce bitterness. You represent the truth that integrity still works, that patience still pays, that character still matters. And in a world where most people have abandoned those values, your existence is an indictment. A walking, breathing indictment of every shortcut they took, every lie they told, every person they used, every principle they abandoned. You didn't just choose a different path. You proved that path works. And that proof, that undeniable, irrefutable proof, is the source of their terror. Because if your way works, it means their way was unnecessary. If your way succeeds, it means their compromises were pointless. If your way wins, it means everything they sacrificed their integrity for could have been achieved without the sacrifice. And that realization is a weight they'll carry for the rest of their lives. They're afraid of your consistency because they can't match it. They start things and stop. They commit and quit. They promise and disappear. But you keep showing up day after day, month after month, year after year, through heartbreak, through financial drought, through loneliness, through confusion, through moments when giving up made more sense than going on. You kept showing up. And that consistency, that relentless, stubborn, almost irrational consistency, it built something they can't tear down. A reputation, a legacy, a foundation so deep that no storm can shake it. They tried to wait you out, thinking eventually you'd burn out. Eventually you'd lose motivation. Eventually you'd join the crowd of quitters and compromisers and excuse makers. But you didn't. And now they're exhausted. Not from working hard, but from watching you work hard. From watching you outpace them without ever looking back. From watching the gap between who you are and who they are grow wider every single day. That gap is their nightmare. And your consistency is the alarm clock that won't let them sleep through it. They're afraid of your silence. Oh, this one haunts them the most. Because you stopped arguing. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped showing up to every fight they started. You just went quiet. And in that quiet, you became untouchable. Because they can't fight someone who won't engage. They can't win an argument with someone who won't argue. They can't defeat someone who's already left the battlefield. Your silence isn't weakness. It's the loudest flex in human psychology. It says, you're not worth my energy. It says, I've outgrown this. It says, I have better things to do than convince you of my value. And for people who need confrontation to feel alive, who need drama to feel relevant, who need your reaction to feel powerful, your silence is a death sentence. It starves them. It suffocates them. It forces them to sit alone with the version of you they created in their mind and realize it doesn't match reality. And that dissonance, that gap between who they told themselves you were and who you actually turned out to be, that's the prison they'll never escape. Here's the part that'll make you smile. Every obstacle they placed in your path became a stepping stone. Every door they closed became a redirect to a better one. Every lie they told about you became a contrast that made the truth shine brighter. They didn't just fail to destroy you. They accidentally built your throne, brick by bitter brick. Every rumor they spread made people curious about you. Every time they excluded you, it forced you to build your own circle, a stronger one, a loyal one that actually deserves to be there. Every time they underestimated you, it gave you the element of surprise. They handed you advantages disguised as attacks. They gave you fuel disguised as pain. They provided motivation disguised as betrayal. And now you're sitting on a throne they constructed with their own hands, looking down at the architects of your ascension, and they can't even be angry because they know they did this to themselves. They created the very thing they feared. They engineered their own irrelevance. They manufactured the monster they were trying to prevent. Except you're not a monster. You're a masterpiece. And they're the ones who accidentally held the chisel. Think about how insane that is. They spent years trying to dim your light, and all they did was make you fireproof. They spent years trying to poison your name, and all they did was make your reputation bulletproof. They spent years trying to break your spirit, and all they did was forge an armor so thick, so tested, so battle-hardened that nothing penetrates it anymore. You're not who you were before they attacked you. You're better, sharper, clearer, stronger, more focused, more dangerous. And by dangerous, I mean dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to fakeness, dangerous to anyone who thought they could keep living a lie in your presence. Because your power doesn't just elevate you, it exposes everyone around you. It forces people to confront themselves. It demands authenticity from every space you enter. And people who've been faking their entire lives can't survive that kind of exposure. So they run, they hide, they gossip, they scheme. But they never, ever confront you directly. Because direct confrontation would require them to stand in the full force of your energy. And they already know they can't handle that. They've already tested those waters, and they nearly drowned. So let them whisper. Let them scheme. Let them hold their little meetings and exchange their little theories about why you are the way you are. Because while they're busy studying you, you're busy becoming unstoppable. While they're busy discussing you, you're busy building an empire they'll never be invited into. While they're busy fearing you, you're busy becoming the thing fear itself is afraid of. You have no idea how powerful you are. But they do. They've always known. That's why they tried so hard to keep you asleep. That's why they invested so much energy into making you doubt yourself. That's why they celebrated your failures and mourned your victories. Because an awake you, a confident you, a fully realized you, is the single most dangerous thing in their universe. And today, right now, this very second, you just woke up. And the tremor, the earthquake, the absolute seismic shift that just moved through their reality, they felt it. Every single one of them felt it. And they know in that place they'll never admit exists, that there's no going back. You're awake now. You see yourself clearly. And the view from where you're standing now, it's absolutely flawless.